After that?
Why would we?
No.
I think we would just give them all to the kids.
Yeah, you would just have open, yeah, there's,
I don't know.
once they're out, they're out, they're out, you have to really do it again.
Fire librarians of it.
Well, on one amount of public surplus, I typically put, what's left over. Typically we go out to public surplus and I have to have some sort of listing to put out for public surplus. Is that what we typically do? Unless we're just gonna start putting boxes of books and not give them a list, I mean, typically we give them a list of books. But if we wanna go back to just saying we have 50 elementary library books.
How much money do we get from public surplus?
Not a whole lot.
How much? Didn't you tell me before it was like $5?
Maybe $4 or $5 depending on. It's more about an accounting thing, and that, again, the board can make that decision, but how they want us to handle that, as long as we put it back in our policy, how we're going to handle obsolete items.
So if each of the schools, if we put the books out on a table or something, and have the kids go through, and as they leave the library, check, okay, this went somewhere? Is there some way we could do that, and then just what's left is turned over? Do we have to make this a production number? We can't just find a way to get these books into the kids' hands?
I think you just identified the process that I asked.
Okay.
No one's
If you're
asking.
asking me, I say give me just.
Yeah, I would agree. That's-
Aren't they fully complete? You mentioned depreciation, aren't they?
They are now, yeah, they are now. I still have.
So I don't understand.
There's no real value.
And it would be a lot of work because at grass, for example, the students are bringing in books. So if you wanted to inventory them again, they'd have to be completely separate from the books that students brought in to give away or other people brought in to give away. And so it would be a lot of work. But if the books, if we're getting $5 for, like a lot of 300 or 400 books, it doesn't seem to be worth the time that somebody would put into it.
I'm just, from the librarian's perspective, what are you going to do with the books if the kids don't take them? Something still has to be done. I'm assuming something's going to still have to be done with them. So what are we going to do with them if the kids don't take them?
Go ahead.
Well, if we're only getting $4 or $5, could we recycle the books? So everything the kids bring in that they don't take, and everything they don't take that are out of the library, then we recycle and we get the cost of the recycle, which may be close to what we're getting from public surplus. So we get everything, because my kids bring in books and other kids don't want them, then I put them in recycle because they're not our books.
The recycling for paper, that really requires someone to tear off all the bindings. So that's not cost effective either, and we're not getting anything really for recycling.
That is what we used to do, and it is cost effective. We didn't have to tear off the bindings of a paperback book.
That's correct.
We only had to do it for a hardcover book, and it's a lot easier to tear off the bindings of a hardcover book than all that other record keeping we've been doing.
You're giving us your weeding log. That's all you should be giving us.
Right,
Which you still have to do anyways. You still have to do the weeding log. That won't go away.
but it really wasn't a lot to tear off the hardcover bindings. I mean, I would rather do that. We used to, before this policy, we used to give the books to the kids all the time.
Well, that's what changed the policy, was the other side of the argument.
Yeah.
So now we're back
People
to
didn't
where we
like
were.
us, the reason the policy changed, because people didn't like us throwing books away. So that's why we went to this whole public surplus thing, making sure that people were getting them, no matter how much money we thought,
No, we had been, wait, we had been giving them to the kids. What wasn't given to the kids was given to someplace out in Lancaster County for shredding for cows or whatever. I mean, truly, that's what we did. That was years ago. And we did tear off covers, but the old way, the kids did get a lot of books.
All right, so the question then seems to be, is there enough board support to let the kids pick the books, and then we figure out what we're going to do with them after that happens?
but I still need to.
But we still need a meeting.
Right, so for grass, there is a weeding log, and so those books, are we, is the board okay with saying that those books will be put out next week for the kids to choose to take home for the summer? And then the other question is Siler, I guess there is the weeding log, which was submitted yesterday, so we didn't make it onto this meeting, so could those be included as well, and then just discuss with the, have the weeding log approved at the next time that we talk about weeding logs?
Okay, so tonight there's a specific set of policies, right? And then moving forward, we want to make it all the same. Is that right?
Barry, it seems to me that what you're talking about is a revision of the policy. Okay, so why don't we
I
decide what we're
support,
going
I
to do?
support revising the policy.
And let's get on with bringing this down to policy.
But
Let's take another look at it.
allow what Christine's saying to happen.
Yeah, but we don't, if they want to have, well, can we do that without getting in trouble somehow? But I mean, that's the question. We'll let them have the books. We're gonna violate our policy.
Just let them check the book out and never bring it back.
All right, so there's two issues. The board can vote to violate its own policy when doing so doesn't otherwise violate the law. So you can always amend your policy on the fly with 5 votes, assuming you're not breaking some other statute or federal law or regulation. So you can do that here. The other thing I would say is, whatever you decide to do with respect to the children, that sounds like a great idea, making the books available to the children. The reason I like then, after that, taking whatever remains left over and selling it for whatever you can get to this entity that will purchase them, is it protects against the claim that the district is somehow wasting taxpayer dollars or assets. You have an independent entity that's at least big. So that's my.
Everyone in grade school gets books. Will the other children feel slighted?
So we're not gonna vote for here, we're gonna look sort of, I think it looks like we all support that. So it'll just show up on the, as soon as possible, 23rd or?
Well,
Where
no,
should
you're
it be
gonna
at
have
the
to
school?
you're gonna have to put a motion on the special board meeting
Have to mail it to
to
'em.
approve the revision of the policy regarding books, so that the bleeding lots from Grass and Seiler, those books can be released to Bedminster tomorrow to be distributed to the students, and any remaining will then go to public service.
That's what I said. It's recommended.
Excuse me, but it seems to me, since we have a board meeting tonight, this could come up. If we could draft something very quickly,
That's what I just said.
get it up as a new business item.
So we need a motion for that right now. All right, I know everybody was fascinated by the weeding law. It's always a big hit. We're getting a little loud in here though, so I'm gonna ask you guys to just, go get some fresh air or be quiet.
Before we finish the weeding law, I do have a comment. And of course, you never know how many copies of what are where, but among the high school books, there is one that I consider rather a classic, or maybe a very painful classic. The title happens to be, and I can't tell you what page because the pages aren't numbered, but it's among this box 13, Social Studies, and it is entitled A Nation at Risk. For those of you who are old enough to remember, A Nation at Risk is the famous title that inflamed, or perhaps engendered, the reform movement of public education in the United States. It basically was a scathing indictment of our public education system and has resulted in many things, some good, some bad, in my opinion, and I'm sure others have a strong opinion too. But it's something that I would hate to see just disappear from our high school library. I think our students ought to have some perspective on what public education means and where it's come from. Things like No Child Left Behind and our Common Core standards, neither of which are at all controversial, are something that have arisen from this particular document. So I guess I'd like to see, if that's at all possible, that get removed from the weeding log if there is not another copy in high school.
Is there a high school library in here?
She will want all the books. Keep both of them. What's the difference? Keep another one. What the hell?
Okay, any more questions, Mrs. Yardley, or anyone on what we're doing? Okay. So, the last item for this portion of the meeting, number 7 is contracts. Is that mine or is that Bill?
No, that's facilities.
That's going to be you again. Jeff?
Mr. Lawler?
Jeff?
I hold a 3-year contract with Tours and Train. They do my software agreements for Grass Elementary and Thibler. It's our building control system, like Johnson Control is most of my buildings. I have Tours and Train in 2 of my buildings. So it's a yearly contract for Grass for $1,994. And then for Thibler Elementary for $2,855. That's per year for a 3-year contract. They come out 4 times a year, take a look at the software, make sure it's running properly. If there are any updates, that's included. And that's kind of the important part of it, because you could go for a couple updates, and if you miss them at one point, it's going to get very costly to then purchase the upgrade or updates. So the updates are included. They come out and just fine tune the program, make sure it's running properly. If there any history that builds up in there, they can remove that and so on.
Everybody okay with that? And to keep you with the prior questions, is that about the same, same time?
It's been the same for the last 6 years, 2 times bidding.
Okay. We're on to Bill's part of the meeting. So you guys want to take a break or keep going? Let's keep going. How about we take 5 minutes just to get our desks organized, okay?
Excuse me, Mr. Casper, are we doing public comment as part of the facilities meeting at the end of both meetings or now?
Yes, both.
At the end of both.
Bummer.